Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to another episode of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. We are in season 7, episode 8. We are on YouTube and Rumble every Wednesday night. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. And you can catch all the audio platforms everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. So be sure to tap into the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. We are so close to 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Go ahead and let everybody know. Trying to get to 5K by the end of the season. Would sure love for y'all to help me out. Appreciate that. Tonight is a very special episode. All right. So we are doing our show at the regularly scheduled time, 7 p.m. But I actually have a special episode that is running right after this at 8 o'clock. You can catch that on Instagram and TikTok for all my handheld phone viewers. You're going to see it in a different view. It's going to look a lot better. It's specifically for phones. You can catch that on TikTok and Instagram. We're doing something special tonight, but we are on YouTube and Rumble right now. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. Season 7, episode 8. And let's start with them layup lines, the quick news. All right, so first we want to start off ladies first, as always, March Madness. And send the prayers out to Juju Watkins. Suffered a nasty ACL tear on Monday night in the March Madness game. Saw the game. I was watching it. I did not see her get hurt. I started watching it after and was like, why is she not in the game? And then I looked up online to see where she was or what happened. And then the coach started talking about it. They showed a replay. It was nasty. You can tell right away she tore something. You just hope it's not an ACL. But unfortunately, it was. She's going to win National Player of the Year, as she should. Best player in the country is a sophomore. She's still got 2 more years. Speedy recovery for Juju. They did win the game, USC, but everybody was excited and anticipating the Elite 8 matchup against UConn and Paige Buckers. Everybody was looking forward to that. I know they were too. And hopefully Paige reached out to her, gave her some words of encouragement because she tore an ACL a couple years back too. So speedy recovery, Juju, come back better than ever and be the National Player of the Year that we know you will be. And, man, this was a window to win a national title and just feel bad for her. I hope she's doing all right. So that happened. Also in women's college basketball, for the first time in history, Duke versus UNC in March Madness in the tournament. It's never happened on the women's side. A couple years ago, the men played in the Final Four. That never happened. And now we got the women. So best of luck to them. We'll see how that goes. I'm sure it's going to get a lot of views, a lot of ratings. So hopefully that's a good game too. All right. So that's what we got. On the men's side, the Sweet 16 is out. Game start tomorrow. And it's going to be an exciting one. No mid-majors, so all of your favorites, all of your household names are playing in the Sweet 16. The lowest seed is a 10 seed, and it's Arkansas. And the SEC is showing the world why they have had an unprecedented year in basketball. 7 of the 16 teams are from the SEC, like I said, even including number 10, Arkansas, and number 6, Ole Miss. So crazy. SEC earning their stripes. They deserve to be there. Unlike some years where the Big 12 have a bunch of teams in it, and then by the Sweet 16, it's like 2 left. The SEC is actually showing out. So congrats to that. Especially for John Calipari. I thought he was a year too early, or I thought they were a year away, I should say. I actually picked them to lose to Kansas in the first round. Bill Self thought he was going to get them. Thought they had at least one game in them. Calipari proved everybody wrong and then doubled down and beat Rick Pitino in St. John's, the number 2 seed in the region, to get to the Sweet 16. After going 0-5 in SEC to get to a Sweet 16 is impressive. Shout out to Coach Cal. It's crazy. He's in the Sweet 16 on one side of the bracket. Kentucky's in the Sweet 16 on the other side. I'm pretty sure both fan bases are looking to see who wore it better or who has the better season. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. And Coaches, since we're talking about Coach Cal, we might as well transition to these coaches hitting the transfer portal faster than the students are. I mean, have y'all been watching and seeing these coaching hires? All right, so Sean Miller beats Texas in the first four matchup, and then they lose to Illinois. And then the coach from Texas gets fired. Sean Miller takes the Texas job. Like, crazy. So I'm sure he's going to bring some kids from Xavier. He probably saw some kids he liked at Texas, probably try to keep them. So he's taking the job over a coach that he just beat in the same week. Crazy stuff. All right, so that happens. Will Wade, if y'all remember Will Wade, he was at LSU, got into some allegations there, and then he had to go down to McNeese State. Basically, when coaches have allegations, they get demoted. They still get the coach. They just get demoted to a mid-major and got to work their way back. Same thing happened to Chris Beard. He was at Texas, had them as number one team in the country at one point. Allegations came. He had to fall back for a little bit. And this was after taking Texas Tech to the national championship. And now he's at Ole Miss and got them back in the tournament. So Will Wade leaves McNeese, gets the NC State job. So he's back up into a high major program. Congrats to him. I'm sure he'll bring some of his guys from McNeese with him. He is bringing the NIL kid with the boombox. That kid already said he's transferring with him. Crazy NIL deals everywhere. Ben McCollum, name may not sound familiar, but he was the coach at Drake, that the team that upset Missouri in the first round, had a bunch of kids from the area of Missouri. He was a Northwest Missouri State coach, won a couple of national titles with them. He stays in Iowa and takes the Iowa job, so he upgrades to the Big Ten, takes his star guard with him to Iowa as well. So congrats to all of those coaches kind of upgrading, stepping their game up to a higher level of coaching in bigger conferences, which means bigger NIL, bigger money, better recruits. So congrats to them. And last but not least for the coaches, shout out to Mike Bibby for getting the Sacramento State job. He was big for the Sacramento Kings in the early 2000s, played there about 6-7 years, and helped lead Sacramento to some Western Conference finals, epic battles against Shaq and Kobe, played with Chris Webber, Vlade Divac, all those dudes, step back, Bobby Jack. Mike Bibby was a part of that team. So happy to see him back up in Sacramento, getting a start at his coaching job. So congrats to all the coaches. And later on, we're going to talk about the brackets, where my bracket was. I showed y'all last week who I thought I had going to the Final Four. So we're going to see how good my bracket actually was now that we're in the Sweet 16. On to the NFL for quick news. We got free agent signings, contracts. Stephon Diggs to the New England Patriots. Think I saw it was a 3-year deal for that. Hopefully he comes back healthy. But as we talked about a few weeks ago, Mike Vrabel, right? We talked about winners and losers in the offseason, and New England Patriots was on the side of teams that are winning or doing the right things. Mike Vrabel bringing in veterans, bringing in guys that can actually play, because last season New England arguably had the worst roster in football, and now he's bringing over some talent. And he just added Stephon Diggs to help out Drake May. Hopefully he comes back healthy, and they got something going over there for as a number one receiver. So New England is straight on that end. Russell Wilson yesterday signed a 1-year, $20-some million deal with the New York Giants. All right. So that tells me a couple of things. Number one, Jameis Winston ain't going to be the starter for the Giants, because of Russ coming over there for $20 million, he ain't sitting on the bench. All right. Number two, the Pittsburgh Steelers do not have a starting quarterback, which means that Aaron Rodgers will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers here pretty soon. So I can't say I feel good about it. If I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you get everything that comes with Aaron Rodgers. You got players already talking about they're not going to be heavily recruiting them. And it's one of the leaders in the locker room for Pittsburgh and Cam Hayward. So I feel like he speaks for other guys. And it'll be interesting to see what they do at the quarterback position. They're not going to start Mason Rudolph, even though they brought him back. But you get rid of Justin Fields. and you get rid of Russ, and Russ goes to a team that was tied to Aaron Rodgers as a potential landing spot, and they get Russ instead. So obviously he's not going there. The Vikings already said last week they don't want Aaron Rodgers, and J.J. McCarthy will probably start. And then Justin Fields gets a bag, goes to the Jets, and he's going to be their starting quarterback. So there's nowhere really left for him to go except on like a white sand beach and retire or play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if he still wants to play football, I feel like Aaron Rodgers will be going there. So that's what we got at NFL, some updates. Stephon Diggs to New England, Russ to the Giants. So we'll see how that goes in New York. And I think it might actually go good with Brian Daboll, offensive-minded coach. It's actually the first offensive coach that he's really had. He didn't really get along with Sean Payton in Denver. So he might actually have some here in New York. Sierra, his wife, in the Big Apple. Maybe that'll be something good for them post-career too. So we'll see. All right. Now that we got the quick news out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into March Madness, right? A little piece of the March Madness. Where I'm going to go, though, is I'm going to talk about these underdogs and these favorites and kind of how y'all feel about where we are on the brackets. So first things first, everybody talks about how much they love underdogs until we look at the statistics, right? Look at all y'all brackets. Everybody picks the favorites to go to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, Final Four, right? We only like the underdogs in the first weekend or the first 2 days. That first round, we love seeing the underdogs on Thursday and Friday, which means you are rooting for these 12-5 upsets, these 13-4, and if you get real frisky, maybe a 14 upset and a 3, right? That's what we love to see. But I always hear people talking about, oh, I'm rooting for the underdog, but the stats don't read that way, right? So as we know, March Madness is taking over this time of year. The NBA is a month away from the playoffs. The NFL's in the offseason. The draft ain't for another month, right? Baseball ain't started yet. Spring training. This week, we get opening day. So March Madness, everybody's eyes are on March Madness this week, right? So with everybody's eyes on March Madness, brackets get filled out. The casual fans fill out brackets. Now, they're going to root for their alma maters, obviously, or friends that like other teams as they pick these brackets out. But let's be honest. In the grand scheme of things, when we talk about all of these brackets that get filled out and all these underdogs we like, at the end of the day, everybody wants to see the household names, the Dukes, the Carolinas, the Kansas, the Kentuckys, the Floridas. Everybody wants to see the household name brands, right? And so looking at these statistics and looking at analytics, I saw from like ESPN Tournament Challenge, Bracket Buster, CBS Sports, all these other bracket, Yahoo, all these places that you can go fill out brackets. Here's what we know. Number one, the top seeds dominate, okay? And it's obvious. That's why you're a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed in each region. So those are the teams that typically get to a Sweet 16 because they're better than everybody else. Hence the reason they're ranked 1 through 4. So most people are going to go with those teams because they're familiar with them and they're ranked higher than everybody else, right? So at least one double-digit seeded team makes it to the Sweet 16 historically. This year we got Arkansas. They're the number 10 seed. So a team typically does make it to the Sweet 16, and we got one here. All right. Number two, upset picks are rare. Like I just alluded to, on Thursday and Friday is when we see the most upsets in that first round. When we start getting to the round of 32, you don't see very many upsets that often. They're very rare, right? Around 15% of brackets pick upsets going into the Sweet 16. That's it. So for all these people that talk about they love upsets, only like 15% of y'all are putting the upsets in your bracket to get past 2 rounds. Number 3, Cinderella teams. All right. On average, 2 double-digit seeded teams make it to the Sweet 16 each year. This year, we only got 1. And about 10% or even less than 10% of brackets predict those teams the right way. So again, all these people that talk about they love underdogs, the stats show that you really love the favorites, because 10% or less, 1 out of 10 people actually go out on a limb and pick underdogs to go this far to the Sweet 16. And then number 4, the public favorites. All right. Now, some people may be attracted to a lower seed. I've even admitted it. Teams that have 30 wins, I like picking those teams in the first couple rounds because it's hard to win 30 games in college basketball. So the teams must be good. But for the most part, I don't really have them going that far. So the public is falling into the favorites. And you can look at, BPI and strength of schedule and all these things to maybe try to eke out an upset. A 12-5 upset, it seems to be pretty normal now. At least every year there's at least one 12-5 upset. Colorado State was a 12 seed, and even they were favored to beat number 5 Memphis, and they did. So these 12-5 upsets are starting to not even seem like upsets, not even in Vegas. So, but the bottom line is this. Most people pick the favorites to get to the Sweet 16 and ultimately win a national championship. So it's just a Thursday, Friday, that first round is where we see the most upsets. And then it kind of turns into, it gets real chalky after that, right? So for those of you who prefer underdogs, just remember this. Not everybody feels that way. Everybody may say it, but then at the end of the day, when you look at the brackets, it's 10% or less of the brackets that fall on the underdog side. So the question is asked, which do y'all like, underdogs or favorites? The stats say that y'all love the favorites, but y'all let me know what y'all think. If you're always rooting for underdogs, and maybe it's because you went to an underdog school or mid-major. That's why I say it's a very small percentage of people that do it. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Who do y'all prefer to watch more, the underdogs or the favorites, right? And the last point, the ratings have been the best that they have ever been in the last 30 years this past weekend, all right? These ratings haven't been as good since like 1993, something like that. So not only is the brackets telling us that y'all love the favorites, but the eyeballs are telling you that too. The ratings on TV are saying we love watching the favorites, all right? The highest rated game this weekend was Kentucky and Illinois, and then Duke versus Baylor. It was over 10 million viewers watching those games. So the numbers speak for themselves. The ratings are higher when you got top tier basketball and top tier college teams playing. So again, y'all let me know what y'all think based on what you just heard. Do you think that more people lean towards the underdogs or the favorites? All right. The X-Factor Sportz Podcast. Again, we are on YouTube and Rumble. You can like, share, subscribe, and follow the X-Factor Sportz Podcast on all social media platforms. And after this show, we got another running at 8 o'clock, and it's going to be strictly on Instagram and TikTok. So if you did miss this episode, obviously you can catch it on YouTube anytime if you're subscribed to us, of course. Or you can listen to the audio on all platforms that allow you to. Or if you just want to catch it in real time, the 8 p.m. show will be on Instagram and TikTok. Okay. Moving on. So we're going to stay with the hoop, but we're going to go to the NBA, right? So these last couple weeks, there's been a lot of flagrant tanking going on, okay? And what I mean by flagrant is like obvious. There's like 6-7 teams that are almost trying to lose. Usually you'll see 1 or 2 that tank. Nobody cares because they only got like 12, 13 wins on the season. But now it's getting ridiculous, all right? Teams are literally letting their players sit games that are healthy, right? They're like, oh, you played your 65 games, so you can get load management. Or they'll play these guys and then in the fourth quarter, sit them out. They'll play a couple possessions and then sit down. Saw that the other night. I think it was a Utah game playing against somebody. I don't remember who they were playing, but let them sit out the rest of the fourth quarter. Okay, so you got fans coming to games, you got people buying tickets, people want to watch these games, and the players are just deciding to bow out because the ownership wants to tank. That is not cool at all. All right. People spend their hard-earned money to go to games. They don't want you to tank. Now, because it's happening, and it seems like an issue that the NBA is having, you got a viewership issue, we got the tanking issue. So now, the X-Factor Sportz Podcast, we are going to fix the tank. All right. I have 3 different scenarios or 3 different options that we can choose from, and y'all decide which one y'all think is the best. I'm going to let you know right now before I even get started. The third option that I'm going to go over is the best option, right? So the first one is a freezing penalty, right? So what I mean by that is if you are a franchise and you're one of the bottom 3 teams in the NBA, so the bottom 3 worst teams in the NBA, if you become that in back-to-back seasons, you are ineligible to get a top 3 pick in the draft. Simple as that, right? It incentivizes these teams to not purposely tank. And still, 3 teams is 10% of the NBA. It's 30 teams. So if you are the Washington Wizards, back-to-back years, you just trash, you don't get one of those top 3 picks. That's the penalty for it. So it forces you to be competitive enough to at least show your fan base that you care about playing and winning games, that you're not going to be a bottom feeder back-to-back seasons. So if that happens, you are disqualified from getting one of the top 3 picks in the draft. That's the first one. The second one hits the pockets. All right. So the owners get hit for this one. So this is a luxury tax penalty, right? So you know how they have luxury tax for teams that are actually trying to win championships, your Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors, right? They add people to the roster, go over the salary cap, so they got to pay a luxury tax. This is that same thing, but in reverse. So if you're one of those bottom feeder teams, a bottom 3 team, back-to-back seasons, you get a hefty fine or you get a luxury tax that you have to pay because you did not improve your team in back-to-back years. So Dallas did this a couple years ago. They purposely tanked so they wouldn't have to give up their draft pick. It was contingent on, depending on their record and where they would fall in the draft order, if they had to give their pick up or not. And so they saw where they were in the standings and start losing games so they can keep their draft pick, right? So Adam Silver did give them a fine, but I don't think it put a dent in anybody's pockets, didn't stop these billionaires from doing it. So now what I'm proposing is back-to-back terrible seasons. If you're a bottom 3 team, you get a bigger luxury tax, whatever the amount can be that'll actually penalize and hurt them. We can do that as the second option. Then the third option, which again is my favorite. I love this idea. When I thought about it, when I was typing it up, I thought it was a great idea. So this can be called the competitive, it can be the competitive lottery, whatever you want to call it. We can think of a name later together. But this third option, teams that, let me back up. The way the draft lottery works is if you are the worst team in the NBA record-wise, they do a draft lottery before the actual NBA draft, meaning you get to see who will be which team will get the number 1 pick in the draft. They televise it and they show you ping pong ball type of situation, all that, right? So how do they do the ping pong balls? Well, it's probability. So if you are the worst team in the NBA, you get more quote unquote ping pong balls put into the system to give you a better chance of getting the number 1 pick if you're the worst team, right? What I'm proposing is the NBA does that the opposite way. You do a competitive lottery, meaning the teams that are actually trying to make the playoffs, trying to compete, but they fall short. So if you're a 9 seed, you get in the play-in, but you fall short of making the playoffs as 1 through 8. So if you're a 9 through 14 in the Eastern Western Conference, you are the teams that actually get put in the NBA draft lottery. So think about this for a second, right? If you playing your ass off, you're good, but you're not good enough to make the playoffs. i.e., like a Chicago Bulls, the Toronto Raptors, or Sacramento Kings and Phoenix, right? Those are some of the teams that are kind of in that 9-10 realm, Miami Heat. If you're one of them teams and you fall short of the playoffs, you get incentivized for competing instead of just trying to tank and lose games on purpose. They will put more lottery balls into the lottery for you to have an opportunity for a number one pick. Now, what does that do? Teams are going to be more competitive to try to get in the playoffs, even if they're not as talented. Not everybody can make the playoffs, of course. But these teams will be more competitive because you're incentivized to actually compete to get in the NBA draft lottery. And if you fall short, there's a better probability of improving your team with a higher draft pick, as opposed to being in this no man's land, right? Where teams are now. If you're a 10 or 11 seed, you actually want to win games. You want to compete. So like the Toronto Raptors want to compete, but they won too many games to be a lottery pick this year, but they're not good enough to compete with the teams that are good. So they're kind of stuck in limbo. The Bulls have been doing this for years. So it's like, let's reward those teams. They're actually trying to win. So why should they sit in the middle at idle every year, right? Let's reward those teams. So what I'm proposing, 9 through 14, when the standings are over, those are your lottery picks, East and West. Go by record, whatever you want to do, but you give them the lottery picks. And then the other teams the 15 seed on both sides of the conference, it's only one other team that doesn't get it, or two teams total. They don't get in the lottery, right? So I know some of y'all be saying, but Jay, how do they improve their team if they're not in a lottery? They'll still get draft picks, but that will incentivize them to compete, right? It incentivizes them to compete, number one. Number two, it's only two teams that this will happen to. The rest of these teams will be fighting and jockeying for position and trying to get their teams better. So I think it overall helps the product, right? Even your 10th and 11th seed, 12th seed even, is going to still compete this time of year because they want a higher draft pick. The fans are excited because they know now, oh, my team's going to play hard to try to get a better pick. So somebody like a Toronto or not a Golden State, a Toronto or Phoenix or Sacramento have a chance of getting Cooper Flag at the number one pick, the Bulls, right? Because they've competed hard enough to earn the right to get a number one pick to add to a team that's actually trying to win, and that elevates them. So the fan base is happy. It's a better TV product because teams are actually competing. The players ain't going to load manage as much because they want to win games, right? And now you better a franchise that actually is trying to win. And you don't allow these teams to tank at the bottom to try to get teams. They're actually going to try to win now. I guarantee you the win totals go up. You won't see teams with 16 wins out of 82 games if they do this. So that's my favorite one out of the three. Y'all let me know which one y'all like the best. So the first one was the freeze the draft pick, meaning if you suck for 2 years back to back, if you're one of the bottom three teams, you are ineligible for getting a top three pick. The second one was the luxury tax penalty. If you are bad, if you're a bottom three team for back-to-back years, you have to pay a luxury tax, right? So we can either hurt your draft stock in the first option, we hurt the pockets in the second option, or the third option, we reward competitiveness, right? The competitive lottery. So if you're a 9 to 14 seed, when it all shakes out, those are the teams that are eligible to be in the draft lottery to actually elevate their team and compete. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Which one do you think is the best option? You already know how I feel about it. Comment below. And remember to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and listen to the audio on all of the audio platforms. You can subscribe there too if you're a listener and not a watcher. All right, cool. So glad we got that off the table. So now we're going to pivot back to March Madness, right? So last week, I told y'all who I thought was going to the Final Four. And now the games have been played out. So now we're at the Sweet 16 starting tomorrow. So I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Remember, we real talk, unbiased takes here. I'm going to show y'all my bracket, or I'm going to show y'all the real bracket, what it looks like now, right? And the teams that are highlighted are the ones that I actually got right. So I did 2 brackets. One of my brackets has 11 of the Sweet 16. This one has 9 of the Sweet 16. I know y'all saying, Jay, why would you show the one with the 9, not the 11? Because this is the bracket that I actually said last week on the show when I picked my Elite 8 or my Final 4. This was the actual bracket. So I'm going to keep it real and keep it there, right? Now, the good news is I got 9 of my Sweet 16 right, and I have all of my Elite 8 are still in. Again, we like these underdogs, but when it boils down to it, the favorites are what they're supposed to be. So still got a shot. And for all of those who are still in these bracket tournaments and challenges, just remember, if you got at least 10 or if you got at least 11 or 12 of your Sweet 16, if you got all your Elite 8 still in, even if you got 7 of your Elite 8 in, you straight, all right? Just hope that they win Thursday, Friday, you good to go. So here's my bracket now. So now we're going to go ahead and break down who's going to win the Sweet 16 games on Thursday and Friday, and then who's going to win the Elite 8 games. Well, y'all already know who's going to win the Elite 8 because last week I told y'all who I have going to the Final 4, right? So I got Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Tennessee going to the Final 4. Now, who's going to play those 4 teams in the Elite 8? Let's go ahead and dive into it. So we got Auburn and Michigan playing. So obviously I got Auburn winning that game because I think Bruce Pearl, you give him another week to do some scouting on you. I feel like Michigan would have had a better chance if they played him in the second round, right? Because of the turnaround would have been so quick. Bruce Pearl wouldn't have had enough chance to kind of scout these 2 bigs that they got in that quick guard. I feel like now with a bunch of time to recruit or to scout them, I think they'll be better prepared. Auburn's a strong team. They've been good all year. They've beaten quad 1 teams all year long. So I'm taking Auburn as the favorite to beat Michigan, get to an Elite 8. The bottom side of this bracket, so we're over here on the top left if you want to follow along. We got Ole Miss and Michigan State, okay? It's crazy. We can get Michigan and Michigan State in the Elite 8. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go with Michigan State to beat Ole Miss. I feel like Ole Miss is playing good basketball. I think Michigan State, again, just a stronger team. No more, no less. I think Michigan State's the better team. And here's something that people probably don't even know. A very underrated stat about Michigan State. They won the Big Ten outright. And they do not have a first team or second team all Big Ten player. And maybe not even a third team. But they definitely don't have a first or second all Big Ten player on their team. And they won the conference outright. Even with all these newcomers coming in, UCLA, USC, Oregon, and they still won the conference outright. So that's a testament to their toughness. Tom Izzo righting the ship, turning these guys around. This is why they play such a hard schedule in November, is so these guys are prepared to play teams in March. It always seems to work out for Izzo. I remember it was one point in time, he had like a 20-year run where every 4 years he made it to the Final 4. Right? It was like basically if you go to school for 4 years here, you probably will get to the Final 4. Right? Hadn't happened in a while, but I got them beating Ole Miss in the Sweet 16. All right. So if we go down the left side, we're in the West region, down at the bottom. Florida beating Maryland. Maryland with the game-winning shot from Derek Queen. It wasn't a travel. It was a gather. It's been like that for years. They do it in the NBA too. If you're dribbling, you get that gather step. They allow you to have it. Then you take the 2. It's okay. It's over. It already happened. Kid hit a tough shot, fading away on the left with the right hand off glass. Give them credit. Maryland won. Now, they will not win this game, though. I got Florida winning. I think Florida had the toughest matchup that they will have probably until they get to the Final 4, right? Playing against a defending national champion, UConn. UConn did not feel like the underdog in that game. They were the 2-time national champ. They did not give a damn what seed they were. They felt like y'all got to knock us off first. And that's a testament to Dan Hurley and his team. Don't agree with how he talked to people after the game. That's another story. But his team played hard. They have his personality. They played like champions, right? They didn't go down. They were actually up at half, but they went down swinging. But you got to give Florida credit for withstanding the runs and withstanding the defense from UConn, and they actually overcame. They got a shooter over there that's finna go pro, probably one of the best shooters in the country. He went off in the second half. For that reason, I got Florida beating Maryland. I think they had their toughest test, and I think that's what the coaching staff is screaming to these guys in practice and shoot-arounds, like, y'all just beat the two-time national champs. So we know what we're capable of. Let's ride this momentum. So I got Florida. Then Texas Tech and Arkansas. Again, I didn't have Arkansas getting this far to begin with. I picked Texas Tech to get to the Elite Eight. I'm still going with Texas Tech. I had them beating St. John's, and I thought St. John's was better than Arkansas. But, hey, obviously I was wrong. I think a lot of people were wrong. Nobody really had Arkansas beating these other two teams, maybe Bill Clinton, but nobody else. So congrats to them, but I got Texas Tech winning. JT Toppin, he's a pro. I think they just played grown man basketball over there at Tech. Now, Arkansas's got some athletes, so it ain't going to be a cakewalk. I just think Texas Tech's the better team. They've been better all year. They're more consistent. They were the only team to beat Houston in the Big 12. So they know what top-tier talent looks like. I think they step up to the challenge and win this game. So there it is. On the left side of the bracket, the Elite Eight, Auburn, Michigan State, which is what I had. You notice they're highlighted yellow. I had them going to the Elite Eight. And in Florida, Texas Tech. I'm not changing my picks. Same teams I have going to the Elite Eight. All right. Then on the east side, top right corner, Duke and Arizona. So where's all this coming from about Caleb Love and the revenge game, and he was the last guy to beat Coach K and when he was at Carolina? Okay, that happened. But are we forgetting, why is this narrative out like Duke didn't already beat Arizona convincingly this season in Arizona? It already happened. So this narrative that everybody tried to play like Caleb Love, this is the rematch game, or he has Duke's number. Like, none of these players was there when he played against them when he was at Carolina, right? Tyrese Proctor was a freshman maybe, but nobody else was on this team. And so this year you actually played in your Arizona uniform at home and Duke beat you. So there's that. Then number two, everybody making it seem like Arizona's the only team that improved, right? Sion James came off the bench. Sion James came off the bench that game, right? So Malik Brown didn't play a lot. The shooter, the freshman off the bench, Isaiah, he didn't play hardly at all. And Duke still won by like 15 in Tucson. So this talk about Arizona like, oh, they're a new team, like Duke didn't get any better. They were the number one team in the country coming into this tournament. When they played y'all, they were number 12. So, and they had 2 losses in that game. They only lost one more game since then. So what are we talking about, right? Duke's on like a 10-game winning streak, maybe even longer. So the narrative out here, obviously it's a Duke thing. People don't like Duke. I get it, right? But to act like because Caleb Love had a good game against Oregon in the round of 32, like Duke is supposed to be worried about the fighting Caleb Loves. Like, I don't get that. They already beat him. I think Duke's a better defensive team than people want to admit because they see them scoring 80, 90 points. They didn't want to give him credit for beating Baylor. They got an NBA player on their team who probably is better than Caleb Love, the other guard. He was supposed to go to Duke, didn't. And they also have the transfer from Duke that went over there and played, and they still beat him by damn near 30. So let's relax on the Arizona talk. Duke is going to advance. So I just had to get on my soapbox about that. Hearing all this noise about what Arizona can do, like Duke didn't beat them already, I'm taking Duke. Okay. BYU and Bama. This probably be the highest scoring game in college basketball, right? Both of these teams put up 80, 90 points a game, and they give up 80, 90 points a game. No defense will be played. Threes everywhere. I do like the point guard, Sears. I do like Grant Nelson, the big. So I'm taking Bama. I think Bama can score more than they are. They're a little tougher. I'm going to go with them in the East. And BYU's got to travel all the way over to Jersey. I think that's an advantage for Bama as well, playing in their time zone. And I just think they're a better team. So I got Bama, right? Down at the bottom in the Midwest region, bottom right, we got Houston and Purdue. I did not have Purdue making it this far. I think I had Clemson here playing against Houston, and obviously they got crushed by McNeese. So I'm taking Houston in this game. Again, Purdue's got the player of the year in the Big Ten, nice little guard, but I think C.J. Cryer is better than him. So the guard play will go to Houston. The physicality goes to Houston. The coaching, I'll take Kelvin Sampson over Matt Painter. And again, I told y'all about this Houston team when we did the power rankings that they play bigger than they are and they're tougher than they are and they got shot makers. So I'm going with Houston. Okay. And then in the last one, we got Tennessee and Kentucky. If y'all remember last week, I had Tennessee going to the Final Four, but I said, man, if they don't run into Kentucky, they'll be okay. Because for some reason, Kentucky has their number and they can't shake these dudes. But I think Tennessee will be ready for them. I got them winning. Zakai Ziegler's playing on another level. Chaz Chisholm playing on another level. They got scores. I think they will get it done. The defense is clicking at the right time. I think they win. I think Rick Barnes gets his guys to an Elite Eight. And actually a Final Four, because that's what I picked. So there you have it. The ones that are highlighted are the ones that I actually got right on my original bracket. And the good news is my Elite Eight are still in, all 8 of them, and my Final Four is still intact. So just struggled a little bit in the first 2 rounds, but it's all good. We'll see how this shakes out. Y'all let me know what y'all brackets look like, who you think will get to a Final Four, and next week we will talk about who we think will win the national championship. Cool? All right. Before we get up out of here, appreciate y'all tuning in to the X-Factor Sportz Podcast, Season 7, Episode 8. We are on YouTube and Rumble and all of the audio platforms. You can listen to podcasts. You can check us out every week. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. And then we will be running this episode again, and it will be on Instagram and TikTok at 8 p.m. All right? So before we go, let's talk about our 2-minute warning, and it's be where your feet are. Okay? What this means to me when I hear be where your feet are, it means to live in the moment, be present is what it means, right? Your feet were already in the past. You already know what was behind you, and you can't move forward unless you understand where you are right now in the present. So that's kind of what I take from that quote is be where your feet are, stay in the moment. And it relates to what we've been talking about this whole episode, March Madness, right? The moment that these kids are in right now, they can't think about the Elite Eight, the Final Four, the national championship. They have to focus in on the task at hand. So that relates in life as well. It's okay to have goals. It's obviously okay to shoot forward and have things planned. But the task at hand, you can't ignore what's happening right in front of you. So focusing on being present, being in the moment, and that'll help you move forward. Those are building blocks for moving forward to goals, is being where your feet are right then and right now. All right. Appreciate y'all tuning in to the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. As you know, you can always get the gear at the X-Factor Sportz store. Go ahead and click on the QR code below, or you can hit me up on social media. Give me your size, color, whatever it is. We can get that for you. Hoodies, sweatshirts. We got one more hat left in stock. It's a gray one of my favorite ones. And we will be getting more hats this summer along with t-shirts. But if you are looking for sweatshirts and hoodies, we still got those on deck. So holler at me and let me know what you need. All right. Again, thank y'all for tuning in to the X-Factor Sportz Podcast, Season 7, Episode 8, Real Talk, Unbiased Takes. Looking forward to seeing y'all next week when we get deeper into March Madness. We talk about the Final Four, and we talk about who we think is going to a national championship and winning it all. Because in Episode 10, we will have a national champion. So y'all tune in. Always check us out. Like, share, subscribe. Let everybody know about the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. I'm your boy, Jay Mondaine. We'll see you next week. Peace.